Hey everyone.
So we've got some announcements for you guys on today's video. We're going to wait till the end of the video to share it with you guys, but it's going to be on the upcoming rat stock trip and all of that coming up.
A lot of people have been asking about that, and we also have some personal announcements to talk about.
So if you're interested, stick around to the end of the video and check it out. And here's today's video.
Right on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hardcore Fab channel. Got Connor here today, and we are getting ready to start working on our trailer for our rat rod build off. And this is what we're going to start with, this old motorhome chassis right here. We got some really nice straight frame rails. We've got a rear end that we can use underneath this thing, and maybe some of this other material here and there to kind of fill in whatever, but this is going to be a good base to start with. So let's just jump in here and start cutting this thing up and get it inside where we can start reworking it. Well, we're going to start off by cutting the gas tank off. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll let Connor cut the rest of it up. I think it's about a 100-gallon tank. It's about what it was last time. Just got some straps around it with a bolt at the end of the strap. So yeah, this is another P30 chassis, just like the one that we started with underneath our C50 right now. And you can see it's got nice, long, straight frame rails there. There's a lot of junk all over that needs to come off, but if we cut it clear back into about here, from here to where Connor's gonna cut it off back there by that back bumper, it ends up being about 15, 16 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's gonna be plenty long enough for what we're needing for our trailer. Also, what I'm thinking right now is that it's got that step up in there and kind of goes thinner right through there. I think we'll actually use that part to be able to have the part there to put our gooseneck hitch part up in there, and we'll take the axle out from underneath here and we'll move the axle clear back up into this area. So yeah, we got this big section back here at the back that we don't need for sure, but there is some nice pieces of channel iron there that we might be able to use to tie some of this back together and be able to hook our hitch on stuff all that up too. So we got that and a little bit of square tubing stuff up here that we might use here and there or whatever. So got a nice rear end in here too. It's a big 14 bolt. So that'll be plenty good for hauling anything that we're gonna haul on this trailer on that rear end. Not gonna be a problem at all. But like I said, I gotta go get some parts to keep working on the truck inside. So I'm gonna go do that. Leave Connor to doing this. Well, we've got the chassis in here that we're going to use for our trailer. It still has the axle in the wrong spot. The axle still needs to go down there. But I was kind of looking at what we're going to do for some cross pieces and stuff up through here. And originally I had these over here that I was thinking I would use. There's some pieces of some old pallet racking and stuff. It's kind of dark over here. I don't know if you guys can see them or not. Anyways, they're like 2.5 by 2.5 or something like that square tubing. But then once we got it in here and messing around, I have all of these over here that I'm not using in the corner too that were just kind of extras with a bunch of stuff that we got around the shop here. And I thought, man, those things are good for like, 3,000 or 4,000 pounds a piece, because I know what gets stacked on them in warehouses and things like that. So they ought to be plenty good enough for just our pieces here on the trailer. And we've got a ton of extra ones that we're not going to use. So I think those are a perfect candidate to start cutting up. How many more do you think we need, Connor?
Probably like
At least a couple, two, three more. We can just dig them out there from behind those other ones.
yeah.
So also this weekend I went to a auction, and I hadn't found any landing gear that I wanted to be able to use for holding our trailer up. Could just put a regular jack underneath there like you would have most trailers, but I didn't want to go that route. I wanted dual landing gear because I've got some ideas with some other stuff that I think will work good with it. Plus it's just really stable and easy to crank. But I hadn't been able to find any. But over the weekend I went to auction, and just so happened that there was a pair there.
$70 sold $60 and put them on number
$390.
390. The man says 390.
We got grinder. That's what I've been holding out for all year long, was to find some at an auction or have some come in at one of the salvage yards that I go to all the time, and just nothing has came up. Kind of the same way with our side tanks. I was hoping to try to find some side tanks now to put on the side of this thing behind the sleeper, but I have not been able to find any of those yet either, so that kind of sucks a little bit. And we may end up not having any by the time it's all said and done, so we'll just kind of have to see. But anyways, yeah, I think that's going to make a really, really strong deck across there. And they're plenty wide enough because they're hanging out past the duals on each side here, so we got plenty to trim up. So I think that's going to be our next project, is to start trimming those up and getting these ready to start welding down to the frame so we can have something to put our deck on. All right, Connor's got us looking really good here on this chassis now. It's all cleaned up. He's even cleaned up all the little, nubs and stuff off the side and everything, and got her really ready to rock and roll. And then he also got all those cross members over there, right there. He got all of those cut down and cleaned up, and those are all ready to go on top. But before we do any of that, we need to go ahead and get our axle pulled out of there. We need to get this thing kind of lifted up, get it a higher profile so we can hook up to right there, our hitch that we've got down there. Let's go check that out a little bit. We'll talk about that, and then we'll get to work on doing everything we got to do here to lift this thing up. All right, so I showed this before in another video, but this is the hitch that we're going to be able to use here. I picked this up at a local flea market, and it's got a bolt pattern up there that I've already transferred into this piece of channel iron right here. So now we can take that channel iron and take the smooth side of it, and we'll be able to take it and put it right here on the bottom side of our frame rails on the trailer frame here. Then we'll be able to bolt that to that, and that'll be the front of our trailer. I am going to the bottom of the frame rails and not going inside and going to the top up there, so I can try to give us just a little bit more height out here, because my thinking is that that level kind of represents where the deck of the trailer is going to be, and it's going to be hanging out there, which would be great when it's, just driving down the road or whatever on flat ground, but it wouldn't take much of a dip at all. You kind of picture this tape being the little bit of space that's in here in our fender well, and then this is the top of the fender. It wouldn't take much at all for that to come down the, probably 3 or 4 inches, 5 inches that it needs. So not much of a dip at all for those back tires to drop into. make the whole trailer kind of go like that because it'll pivot off of this and get into our fender. So going to the bottom of that, just referencing that to explain why I'm going to the bottom and trying to lift this thing up just a little bit higher. So with that said, you can see that this chassis needs to be lifted up about 9 inches or so, or 10 inches to be able to get up there where it needs to be. And I want to be able to try to use as much of this as I can. So I did come up with some of these bushings that I had, and these happen to have the same size bolt in here and also are the same width to be able to fit right here inside this bracket. So that's good. I'm going to take these, I'll get me a metal sleeve put on here, and then I'll probably take some of the square tubing that I've got laying around and make us some short little trailing arms to come off of there down to the rear end. And we'll be able to use that bracket, maybe even reuse those U-bolts and just bolt everything all back together. But we need this mount here to be lower, and so I need to take that off. And then I've got some other channel iron over here that we picked up out at Pfeiffer's. Big old 15-inch channel iron. We're going to weld that to the bottom of this chassis, and then we'll be able to move that mount down, and then we'll even be able to rehook back up the sway bar at that point too. So that should work out to be a pretty slick install and not create too awful much more work in the end of us building a bunch of new brackets and everything. So as long as we can utilize the ones that we've got, we'll be good. And to be able to do that, I've got a method that I want to share with you guys. I mean, you can always grind them off and you can always use a torch and whatever, but you always end up getting into the bracket or the frame on one side or the other a little bit, you know. So I've got another method that's actually faster than like the grinder and still involves a torch, but it doesn't damage the bracket nearly as bad. So let me show you what I'm talking about because it's pretty slick and you guys might want to use this on something you're building. So this is the combo of some tools. We'll take the torch, we'll just heat up the head of the rivet here real quick. Once it gets glowing red hot, then we'll just take the air chisel and pop the head off. That'll leave the main body of the rivet still in there and the bracket kind of still attached. So we can go ahead and get the forklift hooked up to it, and then we'll take and we'll put a punch on the end of the air chisel there and just pop all the rivets out with punch, and she'll be free. I'm trying just to heat up just the rivet head itself, like I said, and not the bracket, so we don't dig into the bracket at all with the chisel. And once we get it right there to that sweet spot where it looks like it's ready just to push the trigger on the torch and make her start cutting, that's when we'll pop it off. You have to have the chisel head pointing the right way. Could just use the chisel itself, but it takes a lot more effort when they're not glowing red. This is the first time I'm actually seeing it, you know, here in real life, and that is a long ways up in the air. Imagine old crow starting here and then going up. It's going to be almost 10 foot in the air, seems like, probably. So I don't know if I can live with this or not. if I could leave the fenders attached to the axle, which is part of what I was thinking about doing, then when the air ride goes up, it's going to lift the trailer up and give us a lot more clearance on the trailer coming down and smacking the fenders. So I may end up doing that. If I can do that and get away with that, then I think we'll be okay. And if I do that, then I can go ahead and trim down my channel iron to fit inside the frame rails and lower this thing down a little bit more. Let me show you guys what it looks like with it lowered down to where if the channel iron was tucked up underneath the frame rail here instead of being on the bottom, of course at the front. Probably somewhere in that neighborhood would be my guess. It's still a long ways up in the air, but that seems like it's a lot more doable, and it's only 4 inches different or whatever, but it makes a big difference on the appearance of it. And it's gonna make it look a lot better when it's aired out too and just sitting as well. So I kind of feel like it needs to be that way, even though it's not going to be functionally the best way to have it, unless I make the fenders attached to the axle. I don't know. What is our height here? I just went outside and measured the truck bed that I've got here outside, and it was around 30 inches tall. It's on the ground and it's dark out there, so it's kind of hard to see for sure, but so that's 40 inches. And then our step is a foot. So 30 and 40 would put, well, that puts our step on the ground. So in that aspect, we put it back up to 4 inches, then the step matches the truck. But then we've got this big giant gap here, which is gonna get even bigger when we air the thing up, because right now you gotta remember it's laid out. Bags are completely down, so I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go home and think about it for a little bit. And I guess we'll be back in the morning and see what I come up with. Well, I woke up this morning and I was thinking, you know what would be the easiest thing to do is just to take and ditch the whole trailer idea. We'll take this chassis, we'll lay it up on top of the other one. We'll just put a few pieces there together, to tie it together. Not that big of a deal. And then we'll go ahead and deck it just like I plan on decking it, and we'll have a ramp truck. And ramp trucks are cool. Tons of people have them out there and they look cool. Then I woke up the rest of the way and I thought, okay, I can't be like everybody else. We gotta do something different. And the whole trailer with this truck, the matching trailer, was kind of the thing that made the truck cool, in my opinion anyways. You guys can tell me what your thoughts are, but I think it has to have the trailer. I think it has to have the trailer before it has anything else done to the truck to make that truck cool, So bottom line, I think for now, we're going for the looks of the truck with the trailer, and we need the trailer to look cool, and if the trailer's gonna look cool, it needs to be lower. If it's got any bigger of a gap right down there, if it gets any bigger of a gap down there, then it's just gonna look silly when it's parked and, we're trying to show everything all off. So down low is definitely the ticket, and I think to be able to achieve that for the time being anyways, I'm gonna leave the fenders off of it, which kind of sucks because I had some really cool ideas to bead roll some stuff into them and dimple dye around the outside edge and all of that. So I guess we'll leave them off for now, and we'll table the fenders to potentially in the future, and we'll see if the truck is going to be able to drive down the road and not be getting the trailer into the tires all the time. With it being lower like that. So if it ends up not being a problem, then later on we can throw some fenders on it. But I think that's kind of where I'm at right now at this point. Plus, not making some fenders is going to help with some time frame issues too, because we're running out of time quickly. Today is the 1 month mark left to be able to get this thing done. So definitely on time crunch. And as life would have it, we've got some personal things that have came up in life that are just bad situation, but here nor there, we keep moving forward and go on, and that is going to cut into some of my time as well, I guess, is where I'm going to go with that. But that's a conversation for another day. I'm not trying to get into that now. So let's get to work on this and start by cutting that channel iron down where it'll fit here in the frame and get it bolted up that hitch and get that part stuck together. Well, we're finally starting to look like something. We got our hitch in place. It's all bolted in. Everything's all measured out up there, looking good. We've got our deck figured out. We've got the deck coming back here, and it's going to be higher than where our landing gear is sitting. Our landing gear's got our rod going across, got it connected, so those two are both connected now and go up and down at the same rate. I made some tabs that are going to go here on the side. Somewhere in there. We'll put some braces in here so that we don't have to worry about these landing gear going anywhere, and we'll put something in this way too. I do see now why the landing gear was at the auction, and I don't know how I didn't notice it before, but check this out. So when I was at the auction looking at it, I wanted to make sure that the gears and stuff seemed like they worked, and they did. It cranked up and down and all that, and it didn't even look like they'd really hardly been maybe bolted on, or if they did, it was only bolted on once. Well, apparently, it must have been bolted on once or something, and then somebody had to cut this side off, and it leaves us with no mounting tabs over there. You can see on that side where we have the 4 bolts that we used, and there's actually 2 more up there that we could have used. We're not using it to hold up the weight of a semi-trailer, so I think just the 4 is going to be fine. But I think here, we're going to actually have to weld that one on. Not that we're scared of welding anything on, but that's probably the reason why it was at the auction, even though they look like they're dang near brand new landing gear. So that's almost got the front of this thing looking and actually functioning like a trailer, like what we want. But we need to still do something back here with the rear end. So we've got the stock rear end that we had out of the chassis. And Ted helped me go ahead and get the leaf springs and stuff out of there and get that all cleaned kind of back up a little bit. And now we need to figure out a way to go ahead and mount it in there. So like I said before, we got some channel iron. Let me set the phone down. I'll just show it to you a little bit easier that way. I got the channel iron that we talked about earlier, got from Pfeiffer's. I couldn't just throw a piece of channel iron up there and bolt some stuff to it. I had to make it look kind of cool. So I went ahead and got this thing kind of cut down and squared up, and then went ahead and cut HCF into it for Hardcore Fab, and I think that's got a pretty cool look to it. So I want to go ahead and figure out now exactly where we need to have this stuff land so we can bolt everything right back up with our sway bar bracket and build a trailing arm to come off the stock mount for the leaf spring mount and go down here to our trailing arm. So I think that's where I'm at now. Well, with both of our drops installed down there, I was at the point where we were ready to bring the sway bar mounts up to the bottom of those and attach it. And it turns out that I can't do that. I brought this drop up here to show you why. So you can see here on the regular frame rail how they just kind of rolled this over in the brake when they formed it. Well, the forming process on this channel iron is different. The way it's made, it's got a big giant webbing right through here to help give this thing strength, which is awesome for what we're doing with it. It's going to be strong. But what it does is it makes it to where now when I'm trying to put a hole through the side of here to be able to put our bolts in, to mount our bracket on, the bolt's going to be half in that webbing and half out of that webbing. So that doesn't really work because I can't put a nut on it, and I could thread it, but then it's only going to have threads on one side, so that's not really a good scenario either. So I think instead, this 15 inches actually brings us down to where when we're bottomed out, when the bags are dropped all the way down, the sway bar is pretty well level. Now before, originally in this chassis that was pointed way up at a huge angle, like 30 degrees or something like that. So being at level and then going up for a few degrees was gonna be fine. But I think since we have this problem, the way to address it would be just to go ahead and add a little bit more to the bottom of that bracket right there that we can just bolt through underneath, and that will take our sway bar and actually point it down a little bit, which is actually going to be a little bit better situation in the end anyways, because then at that point, once it raises up, it won't be as much of an angle at ride height. I don't think it was going to be a big deal one way or another, but this does actually make it better. So that's I think what I'm gonna have to do now is make a couple brackets and weld to the bottom of that, and then we can start bolting all this stuff together and start looking at everything else. I do already have an airbag up here, was kind of already looking at that and thinking about it, but I'm gonna address some of this stuff first and see if we can't make the A-arm or trailing arm before we start messing with the airbags. So, well, I think I figured out an answer here. So this is our drop off of that 15-inch channel iron down there. So you can see how big it is on this outside web out here. And it is just about perfect to line up with this piece of 3-inch channel iron that I've got here. And it's 1.5 inches wide. So I think this is going to be our perfect deal. I'm going to cut off a piece of this. I'm going to stick it to the bottom of our 15-inch channel iron that's already on our chassis. And then we'll be able to bolt through here, and we'll be able to bolt through here with our sway bar bracket, and then we'll still be able to come up here on the bigger stuff and bolt our spring perch in. So spring perch also bolts down here as well. It's got holes down there too. So I'm gonna lob off some of that and see if we can make that all come together and work. Well, a little piece of channel iron underneath the bottom there, fixed this up. Now we got this way bar mounted, and Connor went ahead and got all the stuff drilled and mounted for the top mount here too, for what's going to be our now trailing arm mount. Was the original leaf spring mount. And we can move on now towards making the trailing arm. So to start with, on the trailing arm, that had a 9/16 bolt through it. So I've got some bushings that have a 9/16 bolt through them, and they actually fit in there inside that bracket just perfect. So the way these work, you take this, we take a piece of 1 3/4 120 wall DOM tube, and we got a sleeve made to go on the outside of that. So it's just hollow tube. And then now we can take and put some more square tube in here like what we used on the truck, some of the 2x3 stuff, and we'll just go ahead and notch and weld this into that 2x3. and then we'll be able to bolt it in there and have it go right on through down to our axle. Okay, so we got a trailing arm started in here. The bushing is already in and everything's in that mount up there. That looks great. We've got the square tubing through, the U-bolts back here at the back. We have taken the time to go ahead and make sure that the rear end is square and centered right here where we want it. So we've got it measured off from the back end and from the front end and made sure that it's all square and all that. So now we can mark the center of the axle onto the trailing arm. Once we have the trailing arm marked with the center of it there, we can put one of these bolts in it, like what you would normally see in a set of leaf springs. That would be the centering bolt that'll actually go down into the little hole that you see over there on the spring perch. This will hold that square tubing in place just like a set of leaf springs, and then the U-bolts will hold it down to where it can't move forward or backwards. So all we gotta do is get this in there and knock out the other side, and we'll have the trailing arms done. So Connor got the center pins all wrapped up and the trailing arms are done now and bolted in tight. And now we've been messing around with the airbags. So these are the old used semi ones that we had that we picked up when we picked up the ones for the truck. And they've already got this mount on there on the top, so we drilled some holes. Bolted those up there. And then I've been messing around with trying to come up with some different stuff here that will go to the rear end and then be a perch to land the bag on. So I need to get some of those brackets and stuff that I've got put together for that cleaned up, and I'll show you in here what that kind of looks like and how it goes together. Heck yeah, this is finally starting to look like something. We've got the bags mounted in there. I need to do final welding. We're not final welded yet on a lot of this stuff. But got bags in. Connor has got some bracing up here on our landing gear so that it can't go forward or backwards or side to side. He X'd this all up really good here in the center, so our pivot points and our suspension points here in the front are really braced up really nice, and I just got done mounting some shocks. So I went ahead and shuffled everything around here in the shop, and I was gonna try to go ahead and get to the back of this thing and get to where we could put a panhard bar on the back of it, and then I figured our chassis would be done at that point. And in the little bit that I moved it here, I'm not really 100% sure that we need a panhard bar on here. It doesn't go anywhere. I mean, there's no side-to-side movement. Everything you see moving is the thing just moving actually on the tires, and the landing gear up there's got a little bit of play in it. So there's that. But the axle is staying rock solid. So bottom line, chassis fabrication is done, other than we need to do some final welding, and there's probably a couple of hours of that, but I'm not gonna put you guys through a couple hours of Connor sitting there welding, because I'm gonna pawn it all off on Connor because I gotta go back to work on the truck. I gotta get some air ride all finished up on that thing. I've got some of it already started and some of it not. We need to finish up a few loose ends, like drive shafts still laying there and whatnot, you know, so we can drive this thing. It's really down to the wire now on time frame, and I need to get some miles on this thing, make sure that I'm gonna be good to go to jump on the road and go with it. So that's what I'm gonna be concentrating on next, and then we'll be getting back to work on this thing. As soon as Connor gets all this stuff welded up, I'm gonna have him start putting the cross members on there for the deck, and then we'll probably start working on some sheet metal for the trailer, because this thing is an ugly turd without the sheet metal on it. So we've got to get that on there and get that done and go from there. So a lot left to do. I'm not 100% sure where our next video goes, but you'll just have to check in and see where we end up and go from there, I guess. Appreciate you guys following along, and see you next time.
All right, so about this rat stock trip.
Yeah, we're getting there very quickly. We're almost to that point. So to begin with, a few people had reached out and originally and said they might want to cruise up there with us and all of that. So
Kind of a little caravan going up there.
kind of a mini tour like we did last year to Rat Stock with Rat Stock Magazine. Obviously way more mini than that, because that was insane.
They broke a record for a number of vehicles in it. That was world record setting. So nothing like that.
But anyways, we just want to throw it out there that if anybody is still interested in thinking about that hasn't contacted us, contact us and get with us, and we can get all of that figured out. We are planning on leaving the 18th, which is a couple of days before we need to be there.
Wednesday before we need to be there. Driving from Hutchinson, Kansas out as far as you can get that first night. We don't even have a plan. You need to have that before we do all of this, so you know where we're gonna, so that they can join us wherever the first stop is. Are you gonna go up through Kansas City or down around? You have to know.
We don't know 100% sure yet. So I'll tell you what we will do. We'll make another post or another announcement on our exact trip of way we're going and probably what time we'll be there and all that kind of stuff on another date, because I need to sit down and actually try to figure out if we're going to turn it into a 2-day thing, then there's time to actually be able to see some cool stuff and maybe do a few things along the way. So,
and it is a 2-day thing if you're leaving on Wednesday.
Right.
So, but the plan on Thursday night is to be in Bettendorf, however that's said.
Davenport, Iowa.
Davenport, Iowa. It's staying at a hotel that's right next to the Northern Tool, which is where the judging is going to take place on Friday.
Yep.
So yeah, we're staying in a hotel that's right near there. Days Inn is what I've booked right there by the Northern Tool in Davenport, Iowa, so that when the judging and everything is taking place, that's gonna be a long day, because there's over 300 entered. I don't know how many they're down to now. I know some
Last
people have
I've
dropped
heard
out.
is there's still maybe almost 200 that are saying they're still going to do it, and even if half of those show up, then that's 100 cars still to judge. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a
quite
long
a-
day of judging, so having the hotel right there would be nice to be able to get away and take a break or whatever and stuff before heading.
And that's only about an hour away from Langley, so
Yeah,
it's we'll get up Friday. We'll go to Langley. Everybody's supposed to be at Langley
at 9
Friday morning.
a.m. Friday morning.
And then we leave Langley, we drive back to Davenport, and that's where the judging is going to be. And then Saturday morning, we'll go back to Langley because that's when Rat Stock is.
And yeah, the Psycho Silo Saloon on Saturday for Rat Stock.
Yep.
So that's the game plan. And unfortunately, I don't get to go. Sad.
And that's part of our personal announcements that we want to talk to you guys about, and I'm going to let you do that. So.
Yeah, it's been a really crappy summer of personal challenges for me. As you guys may have seen the video a time or two ago, my mother passed away, and Anthony went with me down to the funeral, but I stayed behind to help close out her, estate, which is still an ongoing process, and it's a lot to deal with. But in the middle of dealing with all of that, I also got a cancer diagnosis. So I am having surgery next week from the time that you're seeing this video, and hopefully by the time you're watching next week's video, and please watch next week's video, I will be at home recovering. So we'll see how that goes, but yeah, it's too soon after surgery for me to be making a big trip across country, so I don't get to go. I'm gonna be trying to take care of myself, so
We do have some friends and family and all that kind of stuff that are going to be there for you and with her and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
while
my
I'm
daughter,
gone.
yeah, while he's gone, my daughter is coming up from Texas so that she can hang out with me so that he can still do the big rat stalk. So that's what's going on with us.
So I guess.
Cancer sucks, gotta tell you. But my diagnosis does look good. Surgery should handle everything, and hopeful, fingers crossed, prayers appreciated, and that's the announcements.
So I guess with that,
I
yay,
know, right?
fun
It sucks.
times. But
Cancer sucks, but it is what it is. Life happens. Sometimes it comes at you fast, and you don't get to choose these things. So,
yep.
anyway, that's why I haven't been around much, because I've had appointments and things to take care of, and lots of other things
Lots
going
going
on.
on,
Lots
so.
going on. So, I appreciate you guys. Hopefully I'll be able to get on the other side of this and be around more, and I was really looking forward to seeing everybody's builds. I've been following along on the Facebook groups and seeing what you guys are doing, and it's really incredible stuff, and I really wanted to meet y'all, but he's gonna have to take a lot of pictures and video and say hi to you for me. So next year.
Well, again, we thank you guys for watching and following along with everything, and we're gonna already thank you ahead of time for everyone that's gonna be reaching out because of this and all that. So, yeah, I think that's about all we got for this one, I guess.
Yep, that's it. So
And we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
bye now.